This is Euronews Now. It's Monday the 30th of May. It's good to have you with us. Germany warns that EU unity on a Russian oil embargo is starting to crumble ahead of talks today over a potential sixth round of sanctions. Ukraine's president vows to rebuild and restore the devastated city of Kharkiv as Russia gains ground in the eastern Donbass region. And Liverpool demands a formal investigation after some fans were refused entry and pepper sprayed before the Champions League final in Paris.
European unity on a Russian oil embargo is starting to crumble. German Economy Minister Robert Habeck has warned ahead of a two-day EU summit to discuss a new package of sanctions against Moscow. Currently, the bloc member states still haven't agreed on a Russian oil embargo. The proposal to phase out imports of crude over the next 6 months and refined oil by the end of the year was put forward by the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen weeks ago. Its fate remains uncertain. The main obstacle comes from Hungary's President Viktor Orban, whose country strongly depends on Russian oil. On Friday, European countries tried to compromise in order to win over Hungary and unblock the sanctions by proposing a deal to embargo seaborne deliveries of Russian oil, but allow deliveries by pipeline.
Well, the Russian aggression in Ukraine will very much dominate the agenda for the next 2 days as EU leaders meet here in Brussels. Very much on the mind of leaders is the fact that the EU hasn't been able to pass the sixth package of sanctions, including an oil embargo against Russia. There are 3 countries in particular, the Czech Republic, Slovakia and Hungary, that have major issues with that from an economic and practical perspective. They'll need a lot longer than everyone else. They'll need a lot more money to completely change their oil infrastructure. But there's one country, Hungary, which has a political objection to it, which has said that the sanctions so far are creating economic instability. But the EU says the issues should not be insurmountable. However, it's unlikely there'll be a conclusion on that issue over the next couple of days. Also on the agenda will be the very difficult situation with the blockade of goods, of wheat, of other materials being able to be exported from Ukraine, which could export a famine or at least a hunger crisis across the world, and particularly in Africa. So some hard decisions may have to be made on that issue. And the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, will also address remotely EU leaders today. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
Russia says what it calls the liberation of the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine is an unconditional priority. Defending the invasion that it maintains is about demilitarizing its neighbour. Its forces continue to gain ground, albeit slowly, pounding cities, causing casualties and widespread damage to housing, despite its claim that it doesn't target civilians. Over the weekend, President Zelensky visited the front line in the city of Kharkiv and announced that he'd fired the regional head of security. I came to see the situation for myself and fired the head of security service in the region for not working on the defence of the city from the beginning of the invasion, thinking only about himself instead. Why did he do that? What were his motives? Our legal authorities will figure it out. In the capital, Kyiv, the priority now is reconstruction. It's believed around half the city's 2 million people have been forced or chose to flee their homes amidst the bombardment. Authorities say around €32 million, a third of its present reconstruction funds, will go to the region. People fleeing from the east continue to arrive in regions regarded, at least for now, as secure. This train was chartered by Doctors Without Borders. Since March, the organisation has helped to move at least 600 people away from the fighting. The UK government is calling on UEFA to investigate scenes at the Champions League final in Paris on Saturday after police used tear gas and pepper spray on Liverpool fans trying to get in. Although many turned up without tickets, those who did still found it difficult to get into the stadium.
Absolutely shambolic. You know, the French, their organisation and UEFA is just horrendous.
The chaos led to the kick-off being delayed for around an hour. The British government called the treatment of the fans deeply concerning. Liverpool eventually lost 1-0 to Real Madrid, but travelling back to the UK, fans were more concerned about the way it had all been handled.
The losing the game doesn't matter. People could have been killed last night because of the organisation. Yes, we lost the game, it was really disappointing. When you've been caught in a crush outside a football ground, when you see little children crying because they have tear gas and pepper spray in their eyes, children being lifted out of crowds onto fences to get them out. You can't go in and enjoy a game, the result doesn't matter.
It was a sad end to a great season for Liverpool.
Time has run out for the orca whale that has been stranded in the Seine. French authorities have announced that the killer whale will be euthanized after an operation to save the animal and guide it back to the ocean ended in failure. Officials say it is in a critical state of health, having become very weak due to being in fresh water and being infected with a black fungus which is impacting its organs, skin and brain functions. The orca has been spotted multiple times in the iconic French river since April 5th. The authorities did not specify how or where it will be euthanized.
Italy's carabinieri are famed for fighting the country's toughest criminals, notably the mafia. But on this rooftop in Rome, one officer is taking on a totally different kind of organised group. And this is no honey trap. It's a sting operation with a twist.
One of the main duties of Italy's Carabinieri police force is to monitor the environment, but here we're using bees in a new way as biodiversity indicators. They explore an area which is between 1.5 and 2 kilometres in size. By doing that, we can gather useful information which isn't normally available in terms of the atmospheric pollutants that might be present in urban areas, such as dioxins and other substances.
In other words, the bees are Italian law enforcement's insect informers, helping to better understand the state of our environment.
This will allow us to have a fuller picture of the situation and will help improve urban living and will affect political decisions in a way that will improve the quality of life in our cities and the health of our citizens.
But why the city and not the countryside? The head of Italy's beekeeping federation, which has joined forces with the police, says urban areas also have a special buzz.
Cities are naturally rich in biodiversity. If you take balconies, for example, where so many different plants are being taken care of, or gardens and green urban areas, these are filled with species that appeal to bees. Both the nectar and the pollen that is being produced in Rome tell us that the city has a great variety of flowers.
Long-term, the authorities plan to spread their wings, making a beeline for the rest of the country and then beyond.
Italy could become the first pilot case, and what's been achieved here could be replicated across the rest of Europe.
Just like crime fighting, beekeeping isn't without risk, but it also brings its benefits.
Working with bees is a world apart. It's so peaceful. And of course, you have to like the job, because there are pros and cons. These bees will never become best friends with humans.
So while the relationship may not be as sweet as honey, unlike the criminals, the bees are helping both us and the planet. In the near future, keeping bee colonies in urban areas could allow cities to reach food self-sufficiency.
Giorgio Orlandi, Euronews, Roma.
You can stay up to date on all these stories and more on our website at euronews.com, and don't forget to follow us on social media.